Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Modern Market. This is our daily show from Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern Time, 12 p.m. GMT, every day of the week, where we discuss all things to do with the modern market. That is the crypto market, the NFT market, and the CryptoPunk market, which is on fire over the weekend. We're going to get into all of that and all of the rest of the headlines in just a little bit. But before we get there, I'm your host, Bchek. I'm joined by my legendary co-host, Legendary, and nothing that we say here is financial advice. We don't know anything for sure. Please do proceed with caution and exercise your own judgment. With that out of the way, Legendary, how are you doing this Monday, the 22nd of January?
GM, doing quite well. Had a very relaxing weekend. Managed to spend a bit of time with my girlfriend. Went to the gym twice. Went to the casino once. So a bit of healthy, a bit of degen stuff, which I find to be the perfect blend.
What kind of ratio are we looking at here for gym to casino? Like, what's the optimum? What kind of ratio we're trying to achieve?
It's a very good question. I mean,
2 to
I'm
1 at the
hitting.
moment.
Yeah,
What's
I'm
the
hitting.
what's
I'm
the
hitting
optimum?
the gym like currently. I told you I changed my plan. Like I went from push pull legs to just full body 4 times a week plus a fifth workout where I can just do the fun stuff.
Mhm.
But in all honesty, I'm probably like on shuffle now almost every day. So I would say 1-to-1 ratio is the current things, and 2-to-1 ratio, as in twice as many gym visits than gambling sessions, would be the optimum ratio. So cut
Okay.
down the gambling.
So you need to either, well, it's not physically possible for you to up the gym then, based on what you just said. You just have to reduce the gambling.
Yeah, that's a smart thing.
Got it. Okay. One of the things I was telling you off air is let's make sure we don't spend those gains before we have them. I've had a couple of conversations, not just with you, but even with other people, where the term pre-rich is no truer than ever, because it seems like everyone in their heads has already experienced the humongous bull market, which only exists in their head at the moment. Like, yes, we are in one, and yes, it's kind of happening already. But I think a lot of people are extrapolating further. I speak for myself as well as the people who I've been speaking to. What are your thoughts on that, Legendary? Like, getting ahead of ourselves. Are we doing that? Have you noticed other people doing that? What's your thought there?
Man, I'm definitely doing it. Like that sensation of pre-richness is getting stronger and stronger by the day. And I need to keep myself in check to, not change spending behavior and all those types of things, which I managed to do quite well. But it's just the feeling in my head when I think about TGEs, when I think about upcoming drops, when I think about the bags that I'm holding. I absolutely am guilty of feeling pre-rich, but I am at least rational enough to not adjust my spending and purchase behavior based on my pre-richness.
Okay, so we are exercising some discipline. It sounds like. Jack, your hand is raised. Welcome to the stage with us, my friend. What are you thinking on this pre-rich debate? Are you experiencing it? Are you exercising some discipline? Are you in conversations with other people who are not exercising any discipline? What are your thoughts?
So I'm just coming from my standing desk whilst walking on the treadmill, whilst having like a new mic and complete setup, and I've just got a new monitor as well. So I'm not really sure how I stand on this, but if you just look at the room that I'm currently in, I guess I've went from pre-rich to pre-broke very quickly.
That lines up very closely with Smurfy in the comments, who asked, so we're actually pre-poor, if you think about it. Legendary, any danger of that?
Can we stay in the pre-rich mindset for like 4 to 6 more weeks before we start to feel pre-poor again? Let's stay with the pre-richness.
Okay, let's stay with that. Well, there's a lot of other people feeling pretty rich anyway, as we're going to see with all of these various sweeps happening in the market. Let's get into some of that news in just a moment. As always, the headlines which I bring to you are in the snapshot, which is pinned up top. If you do find it brings you some value today, please do give it a like. Let's get into it, starting with the price action. We have crypto down a couple of Bitcoin down a couple of percent at 40.8K, still sliding down, has not stopped. ETH down a few percent at 2.4K. Solana down 6%, down beneath 90 at $87. Ape down a few percent at 1.4. NFT volume on ETH was 13.7 million. Solana at 9.4. Bitcoin at 6.5. Headlines for the weekend. Multiple CryptoPunk sweeps move the floor to now 64.5 ETH. I think that's more than $150,000 now. I'm going to dive into some of the specifics there in just a little bit and our thoughts on where we are in the market. Number 2, Flamingo DAO swept 17 Chromie Squiggles, which has subsequently moved the floor up to 8.7 ETH. Also a very prominent collection on ETH. Want to think about that too. And then finally, Soldier Boy asks, what's the best cryptocurrency out right now? We've got a very important discussion to be had there, especially paired with the Dwight Howard NFT collection, the famous basketball player, which has seemed like a really low effort, kind of cheap mint, which has barely been able to sell out. We want to try to think about where we are in the market when we see these types of people enter as participants. Getting into some top sales, got a CryptoPunk hoodie selling for 200 ETH. That's $494,000. A CryptoPunk cowboy selling for 91.5. That's 225. So big CryptoPunk sales across the board. And the floors are CryptoPunks at 65.5, up 8%. Bored Apes up a few percent at 25.4. Mutants at 4.5. DGods at 3.1. Captains at 4.7. Azuki's up a few percent at 7.2. Penguins up a couple of percent at 18.2, Moonbirds at 1.1, and Nouns had a winning bid of 7.6 ETH. Legendary, that is the price action. Those are the headlines. Any numbers standing out to you to kick off the discussion?
I mean, obviously, which is also the headline of the show, the CryptoPunk sweep, the move in the CryptoPunk floor price, and also the move in the Chromie Squiggles floor price are standing out. Also for a very personal reason, because for the first time, like I've been avoiding punks so far because I feel like I missed out. But for the first time in my personal trading history, I'm now providing liquidity against the CryptoPunk. I'm on the lending side of things. And it was a pretty good timing to do that, apparently. So definitely now observing the punks price movement and sales a bit more closer now that I have this financial ties into the ecosystem.
That's very, very interesting. Were you doing that on Gondi?
Yeah.
Interesting. And did you get a good loan to value ratio?
I was refinancing a couple tranches for some punks. So
I see. So you did it in tranches, partial refinance.
Yeah, but with a couple.
Very cool.
Some short and long-term loans going, and a Squiggle as well.
Very, very cool. That's what's really cool about Gondi. I mean, we obviously a partner of ours, but if you can't get access, like if you can't afford to provide a loan for the whole thing, you can just pick a tranche and get access to providing liquidity for a portion. So that is very, very cool. I was a little bit upset, Legendary, because I've had my eye on a few punks in the respect of in the true spirit of being pre-rich. Like I had my eye on a couple. It's like if a few things work out in the next few months, I had my eyes on a couple, and one of them sold. In fact, one of them sold a long time ago, like 2 months, like a month or two ago, for like 55, and that was sad. But also, like now, a bargain compared to where we are now. And then the other one, I had my eye on sold for like 82 yesterday, which is
just to throw some more salt on it. How much profit did you leave on the table with your CryptoPunk flip?
Let's figure it out. So I bought for I think it was 42. I bought at 42, sold for 50 in like 10 hours. But that buy at 42 when ETH was at maybe 1.8 or 1.9 would have been maybe, let's just say 80K.
It was a police one, right?
It was a police one. which is really good. It was really good. It's a really good one. So I guess now it would probably sell for like at least 70, 75, which is, I don't know what, like 190.
Mm.
So what is that like?
It's like 28 ETH in profit that you would have been now, and you sold it for what? For 50? For
50.
8? You missed 20 ETH in profit.
Yeah, it's not that bad, is it?
No, it's okay. It's okay. I mean, you flip it super fast, so for a flip that fast, it's insanely good, to be honest.
Yeah, I know, but like ultimately quite painful to think. However, as we know, it's not something you can dwell on, and it's actually not something I am dwelling on until you just brought it up, because we know you
You're
can't do
welcome.
that. Good stuff. Right, let's talk a little bit more in depth about the CryptoPunk stuff, because it's just really, really significant. Like the move basically has been from in the last few weeks, right? Not just in the last 48 hours, but we've basically gone from a low of 40 something ETH at one point in time, and we've moved as high now to 65, which is a huge move, really. The sweep in the last kind of 48 hours, there was one for 18 CryptoPunks sweeping for 1,067 ETH. That's $2.65 million. Legendary, why do you think that we're experiencing this type of action on CryptoPunks in particular?
It's a very good question. I think maybe before I go back on that, typically when we talked about pumps in the CryptoPunks market, they were kind of an indicator of the rest of the JPEG market to experience a more positive sentiment. And I do think that they're an early indicator of NFT interest. So my hypothesis would be just generally a higher interest in NFTs, and also maybe to some extent, and I know you have some of the news on that, and you mentioned some of that, a more positive perception of that. Just one example that comes to mind is the movie that's trending on Netflix right now, Lift, with Kevin Hart. Absolutely terrible movie. There's so many better Kevin Hart movies than that, but that's not the point of it. The point of it is that there's digital artist, there's an NFT that's being bought, then the artist is kidnapped and it's being flipped for massive profit. But it's not only making NFTs a topic of the movie, it's doing it, in my opinion, without the negative subtone that we've seen with many other shows. Like I've been watching another show where, what was it, with Kiefer Sutherland on Paramount, Rabbit Hole, where there was also like some NFT sales going on, and that had that subtone. Yeah, oh, they just used those stupid monkey JPEGs to launder money. And that was the context within or which NFTs were embedded. And I do think that the more we see it being incorporated in like entertainment and media culture, and the more like the negative subtone just disappears, and it becomes part of the plot to explain whatever logic is happening in a very, very neutral way. Like you have, I don't know, another plot where they steal an artwork and they sell it, and that's just part of the story, and you see that being replicated with NFTs. I do think this is a positive sign, and I do generally think that there's a bit of pent up interest in JPEGs as well. We obviously had a massive move over the last couple of weeks that it was being led by Pudgies. Then we had a small correction in the market. We had the dread day for JPEGs, while I was kind of the opinion it was like nothing to worry about because nothing really changed. And now we're seeing maybe like, I don't want to call it a cycle because it's way too much of a strong term, but like a mini cycle, like a mini spike in interest in punks again, and then maybe rinsing and repeating and into increased interest into other JPEG collections again.
That's an interesting perspective. One of the things I had thought, I don't know if this is invalidated, but one of the things I was thinking about was I thought we would need to get richer from the rest of the crypto ecosystem before it would flow back to some of the top quality NFTs. because I think that the top quality NFTs represent the best, the best way to demonstrate and flex your digital wealth. And I wasn't sure if on ETH that had really happened yet properly. Like, I know there's a lot of, like, ETH is not up that much. I know, I mean, I guess it is up. It's still a very healthy amount, say from 6 months ago or something like that. But it hasn't seen the violent move up that Solana has, and the meme coin ecosystem seems to have. I mean, I know it obviously exists on ETH, but it seems to be certainly capturing more mindshare on Solana right now as well. So I had thought that that would need to have happened more on ETH first, or ETH to move up a lot more first before this style of run happened. Do you have any response to like that thought? Like, I feel like that's kind of being invalidated a little bit, and it seems like people are happy to just go into these high quality ETH NFTs like right here and now. What's the thinking there?
I think that's a different set of buyers. So I think your statement or your thesis hasn't been invalidated. It just hasn't happened yet. We are not at the point where, like, say, people who traded on Web3 gaming have taken massive profits and are like, okay, I made 400 ETH selling Nexian gems, Overworld, and all of my NFT bags, and now I'm going to buy my CryptoPunk and make my new PFP. Like, this is not something we've seen happening yet. More, I think we're rather seeing people who already have punks or who already have had the capital just buying more punks, and not like really the new meta of creators and successful traders taking the profits and putting them back into punks. And this is something that's a completely different discussion, but just as a side note, it's something I'm really curious about. Like, if you look at this, new cohort of creators and traders who are making money with the Web3 gaming meta, if they even aspire to be like, once they've taken a couple hundred ETH in profit, one of my purchases will be a punk, if that is still viewed with the, like, quote unquote younger generation, if you want to put it like that, if that is still viewed as a grail purchase, or if that's something that they don't really, care about too much.
Yeah, interesting question. Interesting question indeed. Just a comment from Crypto Mocus on YouTube saying that they very much agree with me. That's very nice to say. But just expressing surprise that NFTs have gone up so early. But maybe it is proof of more demand after quality NFTs than we thought. Something Jack, I see with your hand raised, want to come to you in just a second, but I wanted to articulate one line of thinking that I've been articulating with some people in private conversations recently. I think that these top assets have, and this is one of the reasons why I bought a Squiggle not too long ago, because I've been saying for a long, long time that these assets in the deep depths of the bear market were still trading for multiple, mid 5 figures to 6 figures, and had been unbelievably resilient, like huge market caps, very, very significant. And my thought process was like, even in this terrible, terrible situation, they're still being incredibly resilient. You've got all of this data, and the lending market, this is why I lean on the lending market so much. The lending market is showing us that even in this situation, these are high quality assets, because you can borrow against them at such a great loan to value, like 50, 60, sometimes even 70% loan to value. You can do it trustlessly. You can do it quickly. You can do it, you can, negotiate terms a little bit. You can get up to a year, 2 years, even a 3-year Squiggle loan has been on Gondi. So you can get like exceptionally good terms for these digital assets and outrageously good loan to value. So you can get good liquidity on them. I don't know, and this might sound insane, but I don't know if there is a better asset to park your money into, because there are no other assets against which you can borrow so easily. And I wonder whether that's one of the things that more people are realizing, and therefore, no matter what point we are in the cycle, you become far more happy to get into this type of asset, because you're like, well, okay, worst case scenario, I take a 70%. I get I buy this punk for 64 ETH. I get a 40 ETH loan against it. for 2 years or something, and then I don't know, you just you do something with it. So you like you can still stay liquid in that respect. Legendary, what do you think about that thought process and that line of thinking? Is that something that other people are thinking too, or is that just me?
I would. I mean, I haven't looked at the data, but I do think that there's quite a lot of punks on many of the lending platforms, and as you said, LTV looks very, very attractive. So I definitely would agree that at least some holders, if not many holders is probably too much, but some holders love to use them in that way. And I do think that if you are in the lending market and you're already in a very volatile environment in Web3, even more volatile JPEGs, you, at least in that subset of assets, want a JPEG that is the least volatile and the most established, and that then definitely would be the CryptoPunks.
Interesting stuff. Jack, your hand is raised. We'll love to come to you next. We'd also love to hear from Sam in just a moment as well, because I know he's been reporting on some of these big sweeps. We'd also love to hear from Kodama in a moment as well. I know he was playing around with some high value loans against some very premium assets too. Wondering if that's playing a factor in this move. Jack first, welcome to the stage, Jack. What are your thoughts on this CryptoPunk sweep?
Yeah, thanks, B. Look, I think it may be simpler than that, but also it might be a combination of what you and Legendary have just talked about. I think different people buy for different reasons. It's not always black and white as to why the whole floor might go up or why the spends are going, because it really depends on each individual buyer. But for me, I think it may be a little bit to do with ordinals and Solana as well. I think for punks, they're just the penultimate NFT / PFP / JPEG. And I think that actually traverses like different ecosystems. I think as JPEGs and NFTs or ordinals, whatever you want to call them, continue to find success. And we're obviously seeing that right now on ordinals. And only a couple of weeks ago, we definitely saw that in Solana. And it's not like there's been a huge retrace on Solana as well. If you look at Mad Lads, etc., they're still holding a significant value more than in the bull market. I think people see punks as just like, okay, if I believe NFTs, ordinals, etc., are going to continue to win, and I believe that we're a little bit earlier in the bull market than some people currently think, then long term that is the asset, and it always will be, in my opinion. It is the PFP, it is the JPEG, it is the asset. And I think if you're thinking NFTs specifically are going to win, then that's where you would park your money. And then obviously everything you've just said about the fact that yes, you can leverage them, you can get so much return, and you can still play around with the asset but also the underlying ETH. It just, I would not be surprised if we see still a significant increase as long as the overall market continues to succeed. And I don't mean ETH, I mean any BTC, Sol, as long as one of them is succeeding and that's continuing to drive that narrative, I think we see punks continue to fly.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately it started this whole movement off, I think, and so therefore we'll always have this historical position. It's also one of the only ones that's literally in museums already. It's in the Pompidou in Paris. It's I'm pretty sure it's already cemented in terms of its historical position. So I think that's always a factor. Interesting, you make the point about the Solana and the BTC stuff. Oxy in the comments also said, I wonder if the push for ordinals and the low inscription meta going on right now has implications for punks, which I would say is the equivalent to low inscription counts. I guess it's just a further play on provenance, isn't it? The low inscriptions is a focus on provenance. Punks is a focus on provenance. And I think there's always a space for that in some respect. Kodama, your hand is raised. Welcome to the stage, my friend. You've had a variety of experience with lending, I believe, with some high value Yuga assets. What are your thoughts on the lending conversation, that these assets are just great assets to unlock liquidity, but also what do you think about the sweep so far?
Yeah, thanks guys. Good to be back on stage again. One comment in the beginning. I think we have to look also at the Bitcoin ETF, because we have now the whole Wall Street shilling crypto, and obviously most of these people that they're approaching most likely heard of NFTs as well. And if they ask what is the equivalent of Bitcoin in the JPEG world, there's only one answer. So potentially also those people are buying Cryptopunks now because they want to have exposure to the NFT market as well, and are looking for the most well-known, established, stable investment they can do. And basically it's also long Ethereum, because we all know punks will pump in ETH. Nobody looks at, or nobody, obviously not nobody, but you know what I mean, is looking at the USD value. Obviously that you can loan against them and they're a pretty good asset for that as well is interesting, but I don't think that that has any, you know, significant role, to be honest. I think it's also, you know, punks are, the thing is, I own 2 punks, and there's someone now listening in the audience and will be pissed that I still don't have one again, because side effect Vienna once owned, would say roughly 7.5% of the whole punk supply. We have, yeah, it's again Vienna, the secret hub of crypto. But
Nice.
no, I've been in contact with punks for a long time. Julie, she's Viennese. Some people know her. She shilled me punks when they were at 1 ETH. Basically, she shilled them to the whole Viennese crypto community. Just a few lucky ones listened. And, you know, it's the community also. It's OGs, builders. If you look at the people who have punks, PFPs, these are all legit people. Every conference or every cool conference has a punks branch, which is most of the time better than the whole conference and any other side event. Obviously, you won't buy 120K asset to go to a branch now and then.
It's expensive lunch.
No, it is, but the thing is, everybody wants a punk at some point if they can afford it. Also, me, for example, I have no issues dumping everything I have, but at some point I want my forever punk and just keep it. And also, for example, tax-wise, in some jurisdictions, punks are, or NFTs are tax-free after 1 year. So if you buy punks, hold them for 1 year, get out, like, it's there are so many narratives for punks, but I think it's just the asset that everybody wants to have, and it's the equivalent of Bitcoin in the JPEG world. So if you want exposure to the market and you have money, there's only one answer.
Lots of interesting insight there. Thank you so much for that, Kadama. That's really, really interesting. Just to back what you said up, Swizzy in the comments on YouTube said, honestly, my goal is to trade up to a punk. I think a lot of people feel that way. I completely agree with you on that. What do you think, though, Kadama, on the point we were making just earlier, where it's like, yes, I think everything that you said is true. The sentiment that Swizzy expressed is true. But what do you think of the timing and what that expresses about where we are in the market? The fact this run is kind of happening now. You mentioned the Bitcoin ETF. Like, is that partly linked to it? Did you think that did you expect us to need to make more, for there to be more like meme coin action on ETH first, for example, before this would happen? Like, what do you think of the timing of all of this?
I agree with what you've said earlier. I also thought that Grail NFTs pump when we have all 10x money again, because usually only degens pay that much money for a JPEG. So yeah, I don't know. I think maybe really this institutional money theory is maybe a reason, because otherwise, you know, I don't know, or maybe because of the whole action on Solana, ordinals and everywhere, whales from other communities wake up and realize, maybe I need the holy grail of NFTs and suddenly want a punk. Could be a mix, but as you said as well, I'm a bit surprised that punks have such a run that early, because usually it needs a bit more money in pockets of us, or as who said, Sweezy wants to trade up to a punk, and he most likely will be able to do it, but we need some more time. We need some shitcoin, meme coin seasons to get back the money we lost last bull run. And yeah, so I have not a perfect explanation. I think really maybe it is a mix of everything that we've discussed so far.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And I think one of the key learnings from that is to not take the first cycle's behavior and try to transpose it onto this as if things are going to be perfect. Like, yes, there'll be similarities. Yes, there'll be elements which rhyme, and there could be certain behaviors which happen again in certain ways. But the market is one time more mature now, and I guess people can, with greater confidence, look at certain assets like, well, if you've, I guess it's the same thing that happened with Bitcoin the first time round, right? Every time it doesn't die, it kind of becomes stronger. And so maybe that's something we're seeing as people want to take a levered bet on ETH. Just want to check in with Legendary there here to see if he has any reflections on that. Then we'd love to get to Funky, who has his hand raised as well.
No, very, very much love the conversation so far. I do have a follow-up question for Kodama after we go to Funky, which would be to hear Kodama's thoughts on what I have expressed before, namely, is that quote-unquote younger generation of influencers still interested in punks? Do they still see that as a grail asset, or does it rather apply, in his opinion, mostly to us who've been around for a while? And then I also think that NFT Stats Sam wanted to contribute to the conversation. He's been waving at us. I think he is on desktop, so that might be the case.
Okay, well, let's get to, you asked a question for Kodama. Kodama, maybe it makes sense for you to answer that question first. We'll go to Funky and then Sam.
Yeah, short answer. Really good question. I think that punks are more appealing to the, older crypto classes, not the ones joining now. And maybe, I don't know. Like, I think if you want to, you need a bit of time to understand punks. So if you're new to the space, obviously you can't afford them, or depends what you do in real life. But yeah, I think it's definitely more attractive and more appealing to people that have some exposure to the market and experience already, because it takes some time to fully understand the value story and everything behind the collection.
Very, very interesting. Yeah, very, very interesting. I do think it's something which certainly has its historical place. Maybe younger people, particularly on the gaming side, might not be as attracted to it. I guess that's something we're going to have to wait and see. Funky, your hand is raised. What are your thoughts on this? And then we'll go to Sam straight after that.
Jim, I'll be very brief. I think Kodama made a really great point with the fact that so many of the real crypto OGs who have been here for, say, 10 years or close to that are the ones who, they've experienced a lot of these cycles. They've seen these kinds of movements. They know what's coming. I think you guys remember when we talked about the physical prints for punks. One of the guys I know, he owns 9 of them. I think 5 of which are hoodies. He loves ones. He's a surgeon. He's been in the crypto game for 10 years. He loves the ones with masks. So I think there is something to be said about Kodama's point that the people who understand punks, to use his terms, they see where a lot of this is going. The institutional money flow, everything else, I think, is all leading into what's happening.
Absolutely. Some institutional money, I believe, is probably at least a part of it. Sam, would love to hear your thoughts on this. I know you've been tweeting about some of these sweeps happening over the weekend. Welcome, friend. What are your thoughts?
What is up, Beachhead? I think I got into a bit of a conversation in one of Thread guys in his comments, right? And people were saying we're not in a bull market yet. We're not in a bull market. And I think NFTs are like restaurants and they're like nightclubs. Like, some of them get hot and then they go away, and every cycle, every time they get hot, something new is going to get hot. So it's very hard as an asset class to invest in, right? It's very hard to invest in the long term. I always say, I've written a joke tweet. Like, my wife says, I thought we were early. Why are we down so much? I say, well, we're early to NFTs. We're just not early to the NFTs we own. And I think that that's an ongoing issue that people are going to face. And like, to me, we're in a bull market because random shit is pumping. But that doesn't mean that doodles are going to pump, even though they're in a mini pump right now. It doesn't mean that chromie squiggles are going to pump. It doesn't mean that the things you own are going to pump. The reason I think we're in a bull market is because pizza, whatever, on Ordinals, launches and it goes to 0.1 Bitcoin. It's because Mad Lad suddenly goes to 200. It's because Pudgy Penguins go up to 20 ETH, but it does not mean the stuff you own are suddenly going to go up, because that's like saying restaurants are hot. Why isn't the restaurant I went to 3 years ago hot? You know, but I think that punks are kind of that consistent layer at the bottom, you know, and I think that punks are this one thing that, as you know, when I first got into NFTs, Cosimo de Medici wrote a thread that still sticks with me, that like, as more and more supply comes in, it all dilutes each other, but more attention comes to punks, you know. And I think that there's a little bit of that playing out. Like when I saw Van Eck, the ETF maker, tweeted something about how like we're coming for JPEGs or something like that. Like you're not thinking, oh shoot, Van Eck is gonna come by. You know, I personally own a Ute. I'm not thinking they're gonna come by my Ute. I'm thinking they're gonna come by my punk. And even you talk about ordinal low provenance or low inscription numbers mattering. We don't know if they matter yet. They've been around less than a year. Like you don't know what is relevant in the scheme of history until it's history. And all these other narratives are new. And so we don't know if people in 5 years are going to care about inscription numbers. We don't know. That's what people who own low inscription numbers want you to believe, but we don't know. But we do know that punks are over 6 years old. They're coming on their 7th year birthday. You know, and in that case, people are like, okay, this has passed the test of time. This is relevant, and this is going to stay important. But I also have had some young guys. You know, I've got to know a few young traders in the space. And if you guys say like, I really want to buy a punk, I say, don't buy a punk. Punks are dead money. You're just like literally sitting on your ETH. You're someone who wants to make, I mean, these are the people who are like, I don't want to put my money in Blast because it's only 50% APY. I'm only gonna make 20% in 6 months. If that's you, don't buy a punk. I mean, punks have been between 45 and 65 ETH for the past 18 months. Like this is not an asset. And to your point, you can get a loan on it, but it's not as easy. I mean, you're saying punks are that asset. Like you can get a Bored Ape Yacht Club loan, 70% APY or 70% LTV for 0% APY without blinking. You can get one on Mutant Ape Yacht Club on Azuki, 0% APY, 70% LTV, 0% without blinking. Punks, it's a little bit harder because punks aren't traded as actively on Blur, so farmers aren't as incentivized to lend against punks. And that's, you know, you guys all know my view on Blur. I think obviously we're seeing that projects like Pudgy Penguins can do very, very well on Blur. But I think for someone who is, despite that incentive structure, I think for someone who is an outsider, I think something like punks, which is kind of on its own on contract, you're not worried about someone coming in and dumping 50 that you're not aware of. Like a lot of those dynamics just aren't happening there because the volume's all in the main contract. So you're not getting the incentive structure on the wrap contract. And there's really no like pumping and dumping like you get elsewhere, and farming and random dumps of 20, 25, which, you know, in short term can lead to pumps, but overall just, I think makes it a lot more confusing for people who aren't deep in the know. I think that's a minor help. I think that I'd say this is the least important of the things I've said.
Very interesting stuff. I take your point about there being a number of other assets where it's very, very easy to get capital for loans at the moment. I guess one of the trade-offs you get is that those assets tend to be a little bit more volatile at the moment. Yes, you can get this kind of Blur loan at 0%, but the assets themselves are a little bit more risky.
Well, that's to the last point about how they're traded on Blur, but those are the most stable NFTs. Those outside of punks and Chromie Squiggles and Fidenzas, those are the longest standing NFTs in the history of the space. I mean, Bored Ape Yacht Club, Pudgy Penguin, Azuki, like that. Those are the most. They just happen to be the most heavily farmed ones. So you feel a little bit like you're walking into this minefield a little bit, or this area where, you know, you just don't know, you know. Mutant Ape Yacht Club traded 2,000 ETH of volume, but the price went nowhere because the same 17 NFTs were getting sold back and forth between 3 or 4 people. I think for a newcomer or for someone who's not deep in the space, I think that is just not an environment that I personally feel as comfortable entering. Versus if you look at punks, they trade 10, 11 a day. I mean, yes, you have punks OTC, and punks OTC is hard to understate how important it is to the market. You know, he bought a few yesterday, but it's just, I feel like it doesn't feel like, as an outsider, like you're walking into such an insider minefield with punks. But those ones you're saying, yeah, you can get a loan, but they're volatile. Well, you know what? Those should be, you know, the second, third, fourth most stable NFTs in the entire ecosystem because they have the longest track record.
Very, very interesting stuff. All kinds of quality information there, Sam. Thank you for that. Probably want to ask you some further thoughts in just a moment. Wanted to try to link this to Squiggles as well, actually, and maybe just what else is going on with the market with like these celebrities coming in and trying to figure out like, where are we? Are we actually further along than we even thought? You mentioned talking in Thread Guys comments. Some people still haven't come to accept that we're in the bull market. Maybe we're a hell of a lot further on than we even think when you have these types of participants coming in and doing what they're doing. So a few more thoughts on that in just a little bit. But Matthew, your hand is raised. Welcome to the stage with us again, my friend. What are your thoughts on the CryptoPunks movement?
Good morning, everybody. Hope y'all had a great weekend. I always just want to point out too that one of the things sometimes we forget to realize is that the reason we see really crazy price appreciation is just because there's such a limited quantity. And I think that this is really in respect to cryptocurrencies a difference, right? You see hundreds of millions or billions of tokens out there, and you see a lot of liquidity in the market, and you see a lot of different dynamics that exist. And the fact that there's so much fewer items in a particular collection is just going to cause the Veblen reaction. The fact that things get more expensive, people want them more and more. You're going to see that kind of characteristic exemplified in these different tokens, especially with like CryptoPunks, for example. So it's just really important for people to remember that price appreciation is correlated very specifically to the amount of these tokens that are in circulation. And it's just, it can go up as fast as it can go down. And the other thing I think is really also interesting is if we had a mechanism to help people build credit every time they closed a loan, people in Web3 would have the highest credit scores probably of anybody in the ecosystem. So let's figure out a way to help people build credit, because every time you close out a loan in the United States, for example, it helps build your credit. So if people are selling these tokens and closing out loans and they're actually making good on it, we should be able to get better credit for it. I think that's something we should figure out.
Do you know what? That's an awesome idea. Like, obviously, I've been involved in the lending side of things for a little bit of time now, but there's no way to monitor or gauge someone's credit worthiness, their performance when it comes to paying those things back. I don't think, at least not as things stand. So that's a good idea.
I think there is on NFTFi. On NFTFi, you can see someone's lending history.
Interesting.
But we should be reporting all these to FICO.
Because it's just like you're gonna pay it back if you make money. You're not gonna pay it back if you don't make money. Like, it's pretty binary here. You're not gonna see that. I mean, obviously it gets less binary when you're dealing with non-floor assets, but like in the Blur era, such a high percentage of everything has become a floor that, like, yeah, I think it's almost a different paradigm in the sense that, like, this is just like, it is just an economic wager. Like it's like buying an option. And I think it's a little bit different maybe there from other places where credit score hinges on something that's a little bit less like clearly binary in terms of like, well, you should close it if you're going to make money and not if you're not going to make money.
Yeah, that's actually a really good response. I hadn't thought about that. It basically, on certain occasions, it will simply not make any economic sense to pay back the loan, and therefore you wouldn't want some score to be marking you down for doing something which is so clearly economically not sensible. Interesting thought. Very, very interesting. That does kind of put us into a new paradigm. I think, Legendary, want to come to you there. What are your thoughts just on where the conversation has gone so far?
You know what? I do like the idea. If we have Web3 gaming on-chain profiles, it would be cool to have like an on-chain lending profile. Absolutely understand Sam's point that in some cases it just doesn't make sense to pay back the loan, and you would much rather default on it. But it's just the concept of it is cool. As to your other part, in terms of where we are in the cycle, and that there's still people out there who are saying we're not in a bull market. Because this is getting to a point where it's honestly driving me crazy. If you look at the price action we've seen over the last months, if you look at what the stock market has been doing in 2023, and thinking, nah, we're not in a bull market yet, it is something I couldn't disagree more with. We are definitely in a bull market. We are definitely in an upward cycle already, and we've been there for quite a while, and everything else is not. I just disagree with. Let's put it like that. Let's stay diplomatic.
Okay, definitely with you on that. Let's do, before we get into that kind of question of where we are and assessing certain types of participants who are coming into the space, which are typically signs of kind of frothy top behavior, let's do the Web3 roundup from the snapshot to get people up to speed with what else has been going on in the space in the over the last couple of days, over the weekend, and then we will get into that bigger discussion. So getting into the Web3 roundup, we have crypto undeads rising to a 13 sol floor from 5 or 6 sol lows a few days ago. A very big recovery from them. That's good to see. Number 2, Pablo Picasso just swept 47 cool cats for $96,000. Interesting that some of that older IP is getting some love. Number 3, Cyberfrogs airdropped to Solana phone holders. And I checked and they're at an 8 sol floor, but it seems like the airdrop is ongoing. So not everyone has received that yet. So Legendary, I don't know if you've checked yours. I haven't got mine yet, but that's something to note. Number 4, OPEPN is up 18% on the week on ACK rumored involvement in a potential next set. Some more news. We have the Quantum Cat 1 of 1 at Sotheby's has now received a bid of $140,000. It's pretty exceptional. Number 2, X payment page goes live on X, which I think is relevant because Elon has indicated he'd like half of global payments to go through X in the future. So something is cooking there. And finally, NBA player Dwight Howard fails to mint out NFT project on AVAX with 85% unsold. Legendary, that is the Web3 roundup from what else has been going on in space in the previous 24, 48 hours. How do you want to move this conversation forward into where we are in the market?
Just a side note, it is very hard to resist the urge to get up, go to my other desk, which is over there, and get my Solana Saga and see if I already have my Cyberfrog, because I completely missed that.
We are live on X, live on YouTube. You have to sit there and wait.
I have to wait for a couple more minutes. All right, let's close the show early today, guys. Fantastic discussion so far. No, just kidding. Let's maybe discuss more on that, where we all think and whoever wants to contribute on that, where we are in this cycle.
Okay, look, let's set up with this though. Soldier Boy tweeted yesterday saying, "What's the best cryptocurrency out right now?" Soldier Boy, I think, has actually been involved with some NFTs a while ago. He did sell some time ago, and that, I guess, I haven't checked the price of the collection, but I don't know that it's necessarily doing that well. Dwight Howard, a famous NBA basketball player, I don't know if he's retired now, whether he's still playing. He tried to sell out this collection called Ballers for 2 AVAX was the public mint price. 15% has been minted. That's 450 out of a potential 3,000. Doesn't seem to be going anywhere. Widely criticized in terms of the effort that's gone into it. But this is like 2 very, very prominent people, pushing with crypto on their mind, let's say that much. And, clearly taking the steps to try to monetize as well in this space. By the time this happened in the previous cycle, like, we were obviously far more, there'd been far more time. Or maybe there hadn't been more time. Maybe we're just this far in. So Legendary, to you first, and Jack, I see you with your hand raised. We'd love to hear from Sam as well on this, maybe Matthew and Kodama too. Where do you think we are with these types of signals who are indicating that they're involved, but typically they usually get involved when we're approaching some type of top? What do you think?
Yeah, I think with you mentioned Soldier Boy has done a couple of NFTs. Zach XBT had an entire thread on him because he's done way more than that. He has done 73 promotions as of April last year and 16 NFT drops, many of which were scams. And he is currently, and he's already been charged by the SEC for Tron, was sued for SafeMoon. So quite a lot of things going on with Soldier Boy. But probably he's not the best indicator because he's always promoting something. Wait, I think we were gone. At least you were frozen. I think we were gone for a couple.
Yeah,
seconds.
I think you're back now.
Wonderful. So yeah, I was saying he's probably not the best indicator, just judging by the amount of scams and projects and whatever he has promoted so far. But generally, if we see it as mainstream celebrity interest coming in and everyone wants to do their own NFT drop, from pro athletes to rappers to God knows who, it is typically a top signal. But I don't think that we are at the top of the cycle yet. If I had to try to place it somewhere. I think, again, we've been already in the bull market for a couple months, but we are not at the top yet. But we are probably way further in than many people are thinking.
Interesting. Maybe it'll just be okay this time. Like, say all those people want to come in, it will. If this is any indication of how things go with this Dwight Howard drop, it's like, look, you might be famous, you might be prominent, you might have a certain number of fans, but you're not just going to be able to extract the liquidity from the kind of native NFT crypto community, because they're just not going to buy it. They're not going to buy that stuff now. At least that's what it looks like for this particular collection, where only 450 out of 3,000 have been sold so far. Jack, what do you think?
Look, I'm taking the other side of this as the bull in modern market. Like, I don't think we're anywhere near the top, like, at all. I think, look, last time round, the difference to me is what a real bull market is everything goes up. Like, even like traditional stocks, even in a bear market, like new things, new stocks that hit the market do still go up in a bear market. It's when everything is trending green that we really, really see bull. And like perfect example of that was literally, you could, in the bull market last time, let's look at Cool Cats, for example, you could literally just launch another project with some sort of theme around cute PFP, and it used to have like 6 or 7 tiers. You used to have like the Cool Man's Universe was the second tier, and that would be 1 or 2 ETH. Then you'd have the Pop Art Cats as like the 6th tier, and that would be 0.1 ETH. And literally all of them, if you got whitelist, you were going to make a 3 to 10x, like literally just like off the bat. If you look at Invisible Friends, if you look at like Doodles and Cool Cats, even when they launched, like, we haven't seen the IP that anywhere near competes with what came in the last cycle. We definitely haven't seen that trend where people are fighting for all whitelists and grinding to get on them because they know it's a 10x yet. I just like, if this is really a cycle, so if we're saying this is the first NFT cycle, then realistically, the first of any cycle, like the real, okay, this isn't just a pump and dump, this is a actual cycle now, normally does better than the initial run where people are basically just first in, like new to a market, early adopter situation. If this is actually a proven cycle at this point, then I think people, and the reason punks are going up right now is because if you look at the previous, like, it wouldn't be cycle, it would just be the previous run on punks for the first cycle, or not cycle, just the first run on NFTs, the real run. People are seeing a lot of upside still just to get to the previous all-time highs, and people could see even higher all-time highs. So that's where I sit, hyper bullish, and I just don't think we're anywhere near the top yet.
I like it, like the bullishness. The only thing I would say in response is that I think a lot of things are really, really ripping just off mint. Crypto Undead's ripped, well, not ripped off mint. Obviously, there's different mechanics now. You buy your pre-sale and then you're 10x up because you can sell the whitelist spot for 10x. Node Monkeys mint out at 0.03. Bitcoin run up to 0.3. Bitcoin Pizza Ninja something mints at a certain price 3x up straight away as well. So I think we're there in terms of certain projects being able to really mint out quickly, high demand, instant huge instant wins. But yeah, need to think on it more. I know Sam, I think, wanted to come in on something.
First of all, I love that Jack is just so bullish, and he's always so bullish. And I feel like we've been with him through the highs and the lows. In the peak or in Pico bear market, Jack was just I've lost so much money in my life about NFTs, and now he's just like right back at it. And it's anything that pumps, like Node Monkeys pumps, like Jack's on it. I fucking love that. And it's great to have that energy in the space for someone who's been through the full cycle. But look, I think we are not going to, in that conversation where I was talking about if we're in a bull market, people are like, well, this was happening last cycle. I'm like, we're not going to get back to last cycle, right? Like last cycle was kind of this COVID money getting thrown into the system, people sitting at their computers because there were restrictions on where you could go, like more money dumped into the overall economy than I think any time that in modern history. Like, I think like that is a very, very difficult benchmark for what we're holding ourselves to when we think about what it means to be in a bull market. The one thing I'm always thinking is like, I feel right now personally in myself more FOMO, more fear of missing out than fear of losing money. You know, in the summer, like you couldn't get me to touch an NFT. There was no NFT I would touch. I was like, they all just trend to zero. Why would I buy one? And right now, you're just like, damn, I'm missing doodles right now. I love doodles. I don't own one. I'm missing cool cats. Someone just swept. Damn, I should have bought another punk. Punks are pumping. Like the mentality, right? I'm node monkeys. I don't even like node monkeys, and I've spent time looking at them. Like I can't find one I like, but I spend time looking at them. This is what happens in a bull market: is people start worrying about what they're missing as opposed to being afraid of losing money. I think that that's very present. The other thing though is like, and ideally we can. The other thing I want to say is about the basketball player Howard, or what, I don't know his first name. I follow sports. I don't follow basketball very closely. This guy was like an 8-year all-star, but I don't think he's like a modern star. I don't think like this is the kind of guy that many people care about. Certainly not that many DJs care about. I think, and as someone who follows the NBA is going to be in my comments being like, you idiot, like how do you can say you like sports if you don't know this guy? But like this is very different from like a LeBron James thing's not minting out. This is very different from like a Messi thing not minting out. This is a guy who went and played basketball in Taiwan, you know, which is kind of something that to me says like, career is over, want to make more money, which is also kind of what NFT drops can mean when I see it in it's kind of what, you know, doing cameo videos can mean. So I don't know. I'm like a little bit less using this as a data point. Like just even though he has, you know, he was an 8-time All-Star and all those things, I'm like not sitting here thinking like, okay, like this NBA player didn't mint out, so NFTs aren't in a bull market right now. Like, yeah, maybe this is just the wrong guy. But yeah, at the same time, we probably have gotten a little more intelligent though, versus last time where like celebrity NFTs, like other than Donald Trump, were like basically not something that you ever wanted to invest.
Yeah, I think both those things can be true. I think we have probably matured a reasonable amount, although that might be hard to believe sometimes, at least to a certain point. Legendary, we're drawing to the close of the show. Jack, I know you wanted to come in, but I think we probably need to wrap up now to keep to time. Legendary, final reflection on anything that we just said.
I loved how Sam started in his exploration to become a sort of mini Jack, expressing FOMO on doodles, expressing FOMO on cool cats, expressing FOMO on not having bought another CryptoPunk. I did like to hear that. The only thing I wouldn't agree with is that we've become more intelligent. I think that this is not the case in this space. But absolutely love today's conversation. I think it was pretty cool to focus a bit on where we are in the market and what's going on in general. And I hope that this was a helpful conversation because we had quite a packed audience, quite a lot of new faces, a lot of new punks who listened in, 170-ish people live. So quite a good show.
Absolutely love it. Yeah, really, really good show. Really, really enjoyable. And as you said, sometimes we want to zoom out and try to think about where we are in the market, look back to the previous cycle to the extent that that is possible. We know that things won't play out exactly the same, but maybe there are things we can tease out and through discussion, try to come to some interesting learnings. Just a final point, Jack, I know you are hyper bullish, but in all of the chats that I'm in as well, like, I just think, I think it's a pretty positive moment. It's very, very good to see the punks moving the way they are too. Let's leave it there. Great discussion, great conversation. Remember, guys, we do this every single day, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern time, 12 p.m. GMT, every day of the week. We discuss all things to do with the crypto market and the NFT market and some creator stuff too. We hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Legendary, for hosting. Thank you, Sam, Carl, Kodama, Matthew, Kalano, Jack, Funky, Confusion, Carlitos, all on stage with us and for your contributions. Have a wonderful day. We will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.